Issue 3, Stormbringer magazine. The Knight Arcanum now has 5 Vindicators watching her back. Hello and welcome to The Lucky Roll, an eclectic channel for eclectic games. And today we're going to be reviewing Painted, Issue 3 of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, Stormbringer. And this time we have 5 Stormcast Vindicators to see. So, Issue 3 of Stormbringer comes with 5 Stormcast Vindicators. The issue itself is nice and straightforward. It goes into some detail about the realm of beasts and some of the monsters that you would kind of come across. So the Monsters of Gore, for example, shows you some of the different things like the Maw Crushes and the Carnosaur. So I imagine that's going to be a whole subsection. It goes into some details about the Stormcast Vindicators themselves and possible names for them. So as you can see here, you can give unit traits and Stormcast names. So if you want to personalize your models, you can. It shows you how to build. Now, the first Vindictor here, this one practically broke my heart. Every limb is separate, and I found this one very difficult to build. I don't know why. Maybe I was having a mental block, but the first Vindictor was an absolute chore to put together. The rest were fine. This one, though, I don't know what it was. I found it exceptionally difficult. So if you're looking forward to a nice evening, relaxing evening, perhaps skip the first Vindictor and go on to number 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then when you feel you're ready, go on to the first one, because this build was crazy difficult. I mean, all the limbs are separate. So it was a very difficult build, that particular one. It shows you how to use dice. Of course, you have to remember this is an introductory kind of game to the whole thing. So it explains things like D6 and D3s. How to do roll-offs, how to use war scrolls. War scrolls basically are the data sheets or the stats for the characters. It gives you war scrolls and attack sequence, and it gives you a little border skirmish. So you can have, in the very first match you got, it shows you, and in little areas, how the figures move in together. So you can have the Knight Arcanum, the Gut Rippers, the Vindictors, and the Killer Boss. So, I mean, it just gives you nice little ways to play with the minis that you've gotten so far, and what happens with whether you get a victory for the Stormcast, for the Cruel Boys, or whether it's a draw. And, of course, this is just telling you what's there in future issues. The minis themselves are very nice. I was quite happy with how they kind of came out. Now, the one that broke my heart was this one. I don't know why, but I just found her exceptionally difficult to put together. She nearly put me off building the rest of them, but nevertheless, I persisted and got her built. A cool mini. I mean, they're cool looking models. I'm really fond of the shields. I think the shields look class. The models themselves, because they're a mixture of male and female, are actually interesting, because Space Marines are always consistently male, but painting female bodies kind of gives new poses, postures, things like that. So it's, aside from the build process, very happy with how she came out. This is the other female model. She'd be the leader because she, of course, has the rank marking up here. And that's a very cool kind of defiant pose. Now, the rest of them weren't difficult to build. It was just the very first one. But, yep, I have to say, really like how these models stand out. The shield looks like it's difficult to paint, but it's actually not, because Games Workshop have such high standards. I would, of course, paint the shields before you put them on the minis. But nevertheless, very happy with how the Vindictors came out. This guy in particular I really love, because it's basically it's how an actual shield wall would work. You have the shield in front and the actual spear to the side in the actual gap, so that if you had an effective shield wall, this is how they maintain their offense. And yeah, I really liked this model because it's a proper battle pose. Now, I suppose you could buy 20 of these guys and have a proper kind of shield wall going if you so wished, but that would be a boring paint job. But nevertheless, to me, this was this is how I'd imagine them all in formation, doing a proper actual preparatory kind of bracing themselves against the enemy. This, of course, is really cool because he's basically lunging with his lance. So again, it's a really cool model. These are really dynamic poses. And yeah, as you can see, he's lunging. They're just excellent models. There's not really much more I can kind of say about it. I just happen to really like the pose in these guys. And of course, you have the centerpiece, which is the veteran carrying the banner. Now, the banner was fun to paint. I mean, it's very. I did a kind of a grey sear for the bottom and a Vallejo white for the actual edge, but the banner, whilst it stands out and looks great, it's an intimidating enough paint job because it's actually the pattern is molded onto it. You can't freehand it. Now, if you wanted to sand it down, and if you were a good enough painter or artist, freehand your own kind of custom banner, you can of course do that. But I ultimately followed the guide as best I could. But nevertheless, I'm quite happy with how the banner came out for me. And again, it's just a veteran, so he's just a cool, rugged old guy, just standing ready to face anything and everything. As for the bases themselves, it's just Martian iron crust. So I'm going with the kind of the storm-baked kind of desert type of area where they're all fighting. But yeah, those are the 5 Vindictors that you get in issue 4, or excuse me, in issue 3. And well worth it. So it's unfortunately issue 3 is when this magazine starts coming up to its full price after its introductory prices. But nevertheless, if you wanted to feel the force of Vindictors, it is a good purchase and a good value one. And as always, if you enjoyed these videos, please like, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff, and join us next time for issue 4 when we check out Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormbringer.